This is the first of a 4-part video on the homepage of Expal, how it is presented and how you can use it to leverage the system and understand your execution map better at any point in the day. We're going to be talking about the homepage in 4 parts. The first relates to those aspects of the homepage that guide you on workflow management. The second part talks about the progress snapshot table. The third part talks about the progress updates section, and the fourth part talks about this feature called things to do. So let's get going with the first look at the workflow management system. Okay, now we are on the home screen of this user with the initials PS. What we're going to be walking through in this video are the panels up top here. Total, pending with me, pending with others, rejected, and closed. All these panels broadly pertain to the workflows in the system. We are only going to be focusing on the items. We're not going to be talking about the ideas. The principle is broadly the same. Now let's start with the first panel on the left here called total. Now this figure here says 132 items. This basically means that there are 132 items that this particular user is associated with. You click on that, you get taken into a detailed screen, and in this detailed screen you have all the 132 items that this particular user is associated with showing up on the screen. The general principle of pagination followed through most of the Expal system is that there will be 10 rows to every screen, and you can navigate from one screen to another through the pagination panel provided right at the bottom here. So now these are all the items that PS is involved with. The list basically shows the following columns. What is the title of that item? What is the tag of that item, if any? What is the item type? Whether it's a project, it's a task, it's a key action, it's a priority, etc. What is the role of PS in that particular item? Who is the owner of that item? What is the status? Is it active? Is it pending creation, etc.? What is the end date of that item? And here you have two icons. This particular icon where you have the plus symbol enclosed in a circle is something that we will come to in a subsequent video called things to do. This eye icon is basically to view the item. So at any point in time, the user can go into any item through the view icon, have a look at the whole item, what does it entail, any details that need to be picked up, can go to the wall, go through the wall, look at the wall, maybe leave a message out here saying whatever, get going, send a message, etc. All these operations are possible from any of the screens in Expal. Now there are some features here. You can filter, and maybe you want to filter only specific tasks where you are the owner. You can just select those and apply. You see that the whole list of 132 items has now come down to 11. The first 10 are shown here, and the next one is shown on the next screen. Now there are a couple of things I want to point out here. You see these color-coded circles out here. These are the flags, as we call them in the system, essentially the progress flag of that item. So this particular item called Patel store is currently in the green, which implies that the execution is on a smooth track. This particular item called test recall has an amber attached to it, which means the owner, who is PRS, has flagged this item as something which is of some concern and therefore will need some extra attention. So if you go in there, for example, you can again go to the wall, see what the issue is, and maybe leave a message, etc. The second thing to note on this screen is that while largely all these tasks are displayed in black, there are certain items which would come up in red. Now the reason they come up in red is very simple. If you go in there to that item, you will see that the original end date of that item was flagged as 13/12/2022 when that item was created. At some subsequent date, that original end date has been moved to 15/12/2022 by the owner. So the red essentially signifies those items where the original end date has been shifted out. So this is basically the total items panel. Now the next panel is called pending with me. Now there are 4 items pending with PRS. Let's walk in there and take a look. So there is this one particular key action called CAO office task. I go in there and it says that there is a certain owner, user 12, which is PIS, is the supervisor and the overseer, and this particular item is awaiting the approval of this user. So all the workflow items where response is urgently required are listed separately in this panel. So PIS can just go ahead and approve this particular item. Go back, and all the other three can be quickly cleared out from this particular panel. And you can see that the 4 items which were earlier pending with me have now reduced to 3 items. Let's now come to the third panel. In the third panel, you have 28 items. Now, pending with others essentially means items where PIS is the owner but are pending with somebody or the other in the system for an approval. So let's wait in there and walk through this. As we saw, there are 28 items spread over 3 screens. So you have a bunch of items which are pending creation, some which are active. So now let's say in this case, there is this one particular item called test. So PIS walks in there, sees that this particular person has approved the creation of the task, but the overseer, who is the second level of approval, has not yet approved the task. So PIS goes into the wall and writes an update for user 14. Please approve. And for good measure, also tags that particular user so that that user will obtain a notification on the mobile and will therefore immediately give it due attention. So the convenience of having all these under one panel is that in one quick run through, the user can go ahead, look at all the items that are pending with somebody, send reminders. In some cases, if it is super urgent, maybe even call the person and request for approval over phone. So that is the pending with others panel. Rejected items are essentially items that have come back from a workflow after having been rejected. So now there are 7 here. You can see that the status is all rejected. So you can go in there. So this particular item called test has been rejected by somebody, and there is a reason normally specified. Since this is test data, the reasons may appear a little flimsy, but clearly in a normal corporate setting, these reasons will need to be fairly meaningful for the user to understand exactly why things are being rejected. So you go back. In this way, you can look at all the rejected items and take appropriate actions. In some cases, send it back into the workflow after some changes, or put it in abeyance to work on it further and maybe send it at a later stage. And the last of these panels pertains to closed items. In this case, PIS has 45 closed items. You can see all these items. Now the status obviously is closed. You can walk through all of them and take a look at what happened in any of them. So these records continue to exist for as long as you would want. So that pretty much covers the functionality of the panels up here. Now you will see that the first 4 panels, the total items, pending with me, pending with others, and rejected panels, are available on the home screen of the mobile as well, and the navigation principles are very similar to the desktop. The closed item panel alone is not provided on the mobile at this stage. This data is always available on the cloud and for the user to take a look at through the desktop home screen. So that concludes the video on the workflow approval section of the home screen.